Gallagher, what's the latest?
As you mentioned, this security cabinet is set to convene around Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's back in the outfit he loves most, that is that of Mr. Security. Obviously, very strategic conversations with ministers involved in these talks behind closed doors, who are going to be discussing the terms of an agreement that would lead to a ceasefire. Now, a security source spoke to France 24's Gwendoline de Bonneau, a French language correspondent, telling her that what they could be discussing is a phased ceasefire approach that would first see the ending of Israel's air raids, followed by the ending of targeted assassinations, and possibly the return of bodies of Israeli soldiers deceased during the last biggest flare-up between Gaza and Israel, namely in 2014. This is an incredibly complicated exercise for these Israeli ministers because they know that compromises, concessions will have to be made. And the other imperative is to present this global picture as a victory for domestic public opinion. And that means being able to demonstrate that the objective, the end goal, has been achieved. And that, of course, amongst other things, is deterrence. So that means a complete cessation, a complete ending of the rocket fire coming out of Gaza towards Israel. Now, keep in mind that until the very last minute, you might see some intensity, and that is part of this negotiation process whereby both parties apply maximum pressure on the other in order to try and extract as many concessions from the other camp. Obviously, this is a very fragile process. If anything dramatic happens on either sides of this confrontation, things could collapse and fall back all of a sudden into yet another a cycle of violence and flare-ups.
Yeah, and if that security source is correct and that it is a phased de-escalation, not a one-shot ceasefire, doesn't that raise the level of uncertainty?
Absolutely it does. Both camps will be observing each other, observing movements and the response from each other. If ever Israelis come to an agreement and are able to basically delineate an agreement, but they see rocket fire continuing or attacks, mortar shells coming out of Gaza, this could call everything into question and sort of force the whole process to crumble. Just like on the other side, on the Gazan side of Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and operatives out there and political leaders out there see things that they do not like from the Israelis. For instance, failed promises in terms of delivering humanitarian aid, opening crossings, then that again has the potential to basically force the process into crumbling, into falling apart. So this again is an incredibly fragile and delicate moment that both parties are entering in through the mediation of third parties such as Egypt and perhaps other nations that are influential and instrumental in this, again, incredibly fragile process.
Yeah, the outside pressure also a factor in the mix. We'll be talking about it in the next hour in the France 24 debate. Gallagher Fenwick, thank you for that live update